Most artists spend years struggling to improve their portraits because they end up focusing on the details instead of the bigger picture. After 25 years of drawing, I've learned there's a 4-step process to fix accuracy in any portrait. I call it the DART system. Diagnose what isn't working, anchor what is working, rebuild the weak areas, and tighten everything up. It's exactly how my students have transformed their work, win awards, and put on their first exhibitions. If you want me to walk you through this personally and apply it to your own portraits, that's exactly what we do inside the program. Link is in the description. So let's break this portrait down and see exactly what's going on. There are 4 high impact problems holding this accuracy back, and we're going to fix them by making the fewest changes with the biggest visual impact. But first, let me show you what is working so we know exactly what to build on. The value structure is great. Everything is kept within the same tonal groups. This is extremely valuable because a person's likeness is created by the values. So if they're wrong, the portrait will be wrong. The hair is also great. It's one of the most common things artists struggle with, so the fact that they already have something really readable is only going to work in our favor. Also, the overall placement is pretty good. Some of the alignments are pretty spot on, so we're going to use them to our advantage. Okay, so now you know what is working. Let me show the first high impact change, because when we fix this, it creates an anchor for the portrait that we can build on, so everything afterwards becomes much easier. Now, for a lot of artists, the knee-jerk reaction is to see that the nose is sitting too low and immediately jump into fixing the features. But that's actually going to cost you more time and effort because at this point, we don't actually have anything reliable to measure those changes against. So every adjustment becomes a bit of a guessing game. Instead, we want to establish something that we can trust before moving the features around. Watch what happens when I fix the framing of the portrait by pulling the jawline up, with the jacket, the side of the hair, and the shoulders. Look at how much that has done without even touching a single feature. This works so well because we're giving the portrait more context in the easiest way. And most importantly, we now have a structure that we can trust because we have the overall shape. Okay, so now that we have the framing, let me show you the next high impact change, because once this is fixed, the portrait is going to completely transform. Instead of starting with the most obvious fix like the nose or the mouth, we want to start with what's given us the easiest outcome. Because I can now trust this section, my easiest option from this point is to get these shapes accurate first, because that's going to give me a single alignment that I can use for the nose and the mouth. Watch what happens when I have those shapes. All of a sudden, I now have a single easy line that shows me exactly where the nose needs to go. So now I can confidently move it without guessing. Now, currently, it looks a bit funny because we have one feature going this way and we have another going the other way. A lot of artists would see this and panic and then start moving things around that they shouldn't. This is exactly why we fix the framing first, because we can ignore that and just focus on what is working. Now it makes it much easier to align the mouth. All of a sudden, we now have everything in our wheelhouse. Okay, so now everything is reading. Let me show you the third high impact change, because this is what's going to connect everything together so the portrait starts acting in unison. Now, it can be scary, but watch what happens when I go over everything and put that mid-tone down. All of a sudden, the portrait has much more life to it. This is now all the heavy lifting done, which means everything afterwards becomes much more straightforward. Okay, so now let me show you the last high impact change, because this is what's going to give the portrait clarity. Watch what happens when we add definition, specifically to the features. Now it's important that we've left the definition until last. We need to make sure our base tone of the features are working first before we lock them into the portrait. Because if we need to adjust them before moving forwards, it makes it so much easier than trying to blend out those darker tones later. Okay, so now on to the last section of the DART system, tighten. The portrait is locked in. The likeness is confident. It's now just basically blending through some of the midtones, softening the transitions, and adding a couple of highlights. Just look at the before and after. Even though there is a big change in the portrait, I've actually used a lot of what's already there. It's not about fixing 100 small things. It's about making the biggest impact with the least amount of decisions. Better yet, it's about building a foundation you can trust so your drawing becomes refinement instead of repairing. So watch this video here where I'll show you exactly how to do that.